Okay, tonight, supply chain, forecasting, and capacity planning. Supply chain applies equally to products and services. Forecasting, it's more important to products, but it does have its place in services. Same with capacity planning. This is another area where traditional managers think that capacity planning only refers to production lines, factories. You know, how much are we going to produce? How many machine tools? But capacity also has to do with, retail industry. How many salespeople do you have? How many people at the checkout lines? Banking, how many tellers do you have? How many windows are open? How many customer service people? All of that has to do with capacity. So this first section here, chapter 10, we're going to look at supply chain management. Somebody said Sunday that you requested a supply chain class?
Yeah.
Are they going to develop one for you?
I think so. One of our colleagues actually, she said that they're planning to discontinue the course. That if she gathers a lot of voices, actually she gathered at least 7 or 10 of us.
Okay.
So I think actually they're going to do it next semester.
All right.
I'm going to take it as well. So I'll apply for it.
Okay. I should let them know. I've done a supply chain quality class at the master's level back at my program. It's processes in the supply chain, quality processes in the supply chain. I don't know. Yeah, I'll let Fuad know if you're going to run a special one, might be able to help you out there. Okay. Purchasing, logistics, we're just going to hit the highlights here, because supply chain, as we were just discussing, it's an entire semester class. It's very complex. There's a lot of issues to look at, and it is part of operations. It's a critical part.
It wasn't in the radar for a long time. Up until the last couple of years, the universities start actually specializing, having specialized grades and courses on supply chain.
It just now did?
Recently.
Okay.
Not just 5 years, 5, 7
Only
years.
5?
Only. But before that, actually, it was out of the radar. Nobody knew what is supply chain.
It's been a little longer than that in the United States. Around 1990, supply chain started to get a lot of interest. And one university out in Arizona, University of Arizona, probably has the top 5 or 6 experts in supply chain in the world on their staff for their program. And they're renowned in the United States for the #1 supply chain. But there's a lot, supply chain program, there's a lot of universities that have picked it up.
Here in Saudi Arabia just came lately actually of an interest for students to study supply chain.
Yeah.
I think the complexity of the system, the value chain actually drove them actually to study supply chain.
Do you want my personal opinion on that? Or would you rather I not? It's unfounded, but I think the problem was the supply chain, the purchasing department in many companies reports through the finance manager. Purchasing, I know at the universities I've worked at, purchasing is part of the finance department, not operations. And every decision is based on cost, standard cost. And that's all they're looking for, bottom line numbers. And they have no concept about the value added and the effect on operations and the other processes.
Here, a lot of retail actually, they implemented supply chain efficiently, and it's part of operations, not finance. It's part of the circle for approvals, but not the decision, let's say.
Okay. Yeah, in finance, I mean, nothing against finance people, but they approach it from a different perspective. And the perspective doesn't look at the total value. I'll share an example with you. Back in California, it's been about 5 years ago now, I taught a quality class. And I had in my class a guy who worked in the warehouse for the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'm sorry?
I want to take my quiz too. They told me that it's okay to take.
No, it isn't. Okay? They gave you bad information. All right? Got to remember now who's running this class. Okay? You'll get it later. I'm sorry. Okay. So I've got to take control of the situation there, huh? No, for those of you that came in after I handed out the quizzes, you'll get them back a little bit later. We've got to move ahead here. Okay? All right.
Yeah, back in California.
California, yeah. This guy worked in a warehouse, LA Unified School District. The bureaucracy of the school district is probably as intense as the U.S. government. Try to get things done. Probably the same with the Saudi government, any government organization. The guy's in a warehouse. The one distribution center, this is a huge school district. There's 10 million people in Los Angeles. And it's one huge public school district. Everything comes through one warehouse. And at the warehouse, paper for printers, copy machines comes in packaged reams. They're buying it from Korea, cheapest they can get. It comes in very flimsily waxed paper. It's put on a pallet, it's stacked up, reams only, and shrink wrapped, put in containers and shipped. Okay, the container ends up in a warehouse, or they cut the shrink wrap. Because of transportation, handling, shipping and all that, it moves around, stress builds up. They cut the plastic and the pallets explode. The pressure. They come back on the operators. Paper all over the floor. Okay, what's not damaged, then they have to pack up. They're going to send 100 reams to the west side, 200 reams to the south. Then they have to count them all out, find a box, put it in, and then get there, unload them. In the meantime, there's more handling, more packaging, the flimsy wrappings falling apart, papers all over the place. These operators in the warehouse are complaining for 5 years about this, and they're not getting anywhere. So this guy's in my class, and he said, we're so frustrated with it. It's so frustrating, all the extra work, the waste, the danger. So he took it on as his quality project for the class. And he researched it, and he did a really nice job. He's a warehouse. Oh, no, he wasn't even a manager. He worked in a warehouse. And he put this project together. Of course, he got an A in the class. He did an outstanding job, great job. And he said, what do you think if I give this to my supervisor and see if anything happens? I said, what do you have to lose? So end of class, he made his presentation, got his A, and he called me about 2 weeks later and said, I gave my package to my supervisor, and the purchasing manager for the entire school district in the executive office in downtown Los Angeles wants to see me. His manager took that and went right to the top, and he wants to see him. He said, what am I going to tell him? I said, well, just tell him the same thing you told me in class. You did a good job. I mean, you're the ones working with it every day. You had the facts. You had everything laid out. So he called me about a month later. He said, you know what? We've got a new supplier of paper for the school district. After 5 years of complaining, it's not the cheapest paper anymore, but they put a whole package together from the supplier on how it comes in, saves them warehouse time, saves them damage, saves them shipping handling, safety issues reduced. They're paying more for the paper, but the total cost of the whole project now is significantly reduced. And he said, I never thought that would happen. He said, I never thought that we'd be able to change suppliers like that. And I said, well, you see what happens when you build a good case and provide facts. And he said, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm the new warehouse supervisor. And the purchasing manager promoted him to warehouse supervisor and says, I hope you can continue to bring projects like this in front of me. Do you see what what I consider the success is knowing where this occurred, the LA Unified School District, because to get them to change is like moving a mountain. And he got somebody's attention with these numbers and facts that they made a change. And that's what, value-added purchasing, supply chain. more than just buying paper for the school at the cheapest ream. It's the total package, the total cost of handling and waste and safety issues. You just need somebody to take the time, because the facts are there. Who are the experts? Where did he get his information from? Himself and all the people around him that were doing the jobs. You know, he gave them check sheets, you know, data forms like that. How many reams broke? How long did it take you to unload and then reload for, you know, school district, and all the other little facts and odds and ends? Put the whole package together, and I'll tell you what, it was impressive. He got a promotion, and they got a new supplier of paper. Great success story. So, okay, these are the areas we'll be looking at here. Supply chain management, manufacturers and suppliers, transporters, warehouses, retailers, and customers. This is complex. And do you know what the challenge is for operation managers today? It's always changing. There are companies that are doing things that keep getting creative and innovative, and you might be cutting edge today in getting your products and your supplies, and tomorrow you're out of business. And one of the big examples right now, I don't know if it's, you know, operations people, you should be aware of this. Back in the U.S., we've got Walmart. Everybody's heard of Walmart, right? Have you heard of Sears?
Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty much in the same market. Sears is fighting to keep their doors open. They're selling off assets, selling product lines, closing most of their stores, consolidating in just the large cities, struggling to survive. In the same market, the first quarter of this year, Walmart, their sales are up 62%. They're in the same market. One is struggling. They're recognized as a brand. Sears has been in business over 100 years, 150 years, and they've got a good reputation. I mean, good customer service, good products. I mean, they're not high-end, they're not expensive, but they're basic, and they're known for their reputation. But they're struggling, and there's Walmart, 62% growth. You know where most of Walmart's growth came from? A lot has to do with the supply chain.
Yeah.
You know, people that shop at Walmart, especially in the U.S., are bargain hunters. Walmart's not known for high-quality products. And there's a lot of affluent people, well-to-do, in the U.S. that won't go to Walmart. I won't shop at Walmart. I will not buy their Chinese-made junk. I'll go to my high-end designer stores and pay premium prices. And Walmart hasn't been able to tap that market. So do you know what they did in the last 8 months? They signed agreements with these high-end online retailers. These affluent people buy these high-end products online. And Walmart set up a deal where if you go online and you buy a very expensive china, crystal, or whatever clothing from these designers, there's no shipping charges, but it is shipped to your local Walmart. There's a Walmart in every neighborhood in the U.S. Yeah, so you have to go to the store and pick it up. So it saves you shipping charges. Clever. And you have to go, well, it even gets more clever. Where's the shipping department in Walmart?
At the end of the store.
At the back of the store. Yeah, it's not up front. You got to go all the way through the store. And to walk in where the shipping department, where you go to get your free shipment, all you do is sign and pick it up. Yeah, the journey they go through are all the impulse buying, the soft drinks, the sodas, you know, the chips, the candy, the cookies, you know, that are available just about everywhere, but Walmart sells them at a discount, batteries, you know, and things like that. So they have those all lined up. So you're walking into Walmart, and you've got to go there anyhow to pick up your free shipments, and everybody drinks, in the U.S., drinks soda, eats chips and cookies and all the junk food. So they pick up one here, one here, one here, and they walk out and they spend, $30 or $40 US of people that otherwise would not even walk in that store. That's where Walmart's growth is coming from. They're giving away free shipping, and they're making it up in volume of sales on other products. Creativity and innovation. And right now they're going to war with Amazon. There's going to be a big battle in the U.S. between Amazon's delivery policies and what Walmart's trying to do. So it's interesting to watch. It's really interesting to see what happens. So that's what I said, transporters and warehouses and retailers. They've got a lot of floor space that's open and available. They're in every neighborhood. And we're doing a lot of online buying, so I expect other companies are going to start moving into something like that in the future. I don't know if you have it here or not, but I don't get out shopping that much. But I've gone to a local, back where I used to live in Pennsylvania. I was back there a couple months ago and went to the local mall, and I noticed the stores are still there, but they're only about half the size. Like you'd walk in the store here and this would be the entire store all the way through. Now they've got a partition. The back is just empty or warehouse or whatever. The only retail space is about half of it. So that's where these opportunities come up for operations in the supply chain. Other processes, again, that support the supply chain are customer relationship management. What's the difference between customer relationship and customer service? There's a difference here.
The relation is more, service is actually basically providing it to fix, or actually there's an issue or a complaint. That's what customer service management is about, actually. It's taking care of the qualities or something.
Okay.
The relationship is actually the whole journey between the customer as well as the provider.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Yeah, the relationship goes beyond the transaction.
Yeah.
It's building the long-term relationship and understanding what the customer's trends are, their buying habits, keeping them informed of new products, something that might be of interest to them. And they're getting real creative too. Again, in the U.S., I'm sharing these with you because I don't know if the Saudi companies are doing it or not. My wife has a Honda CRV. It's a 2013. And I've been taking it to one Honda dealer for servicing. And I got a letter the other day, and it has an email printout chain in there. And it's someone is, we oversold our inventory, and we have a customer who wants the exact same car that you have, that 2013 CRV, and we're ready to pay top price for it. If you bring it in now, we'll give you the best deal ever for trade-in because we've got a customer that's ready to buy it, and we'll make you a great deal on a new car. And the whole email chain almost looks realistic, but come on now, somebody's going to come in and ask for the exact same car that I'm driving and the mileage range that I have, the options that I have, the color that I have. It looks realistic, but
Yeah, it doesn't look
yeah,
real.
yeah, it's too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Somebody wants the exact same car that I have sitting in my driveway. Exactly.
Exact mileage.
Yeah, exact mileage, everything.
It's a memories.
It's,
It's about memories and histories.
yeah,
They call it.
but again, it's
bluffing.
customer relationship management. Demand management. We're going to talk more about demand, making sure that you've got the services available, the products available, knowing what independent demand is and dependent demand. That's an operations decision depending on the industry that you're in. Order fulfillment, how do you fulfill an order?
This one, there are several principles at least used in the warehouse. The FIFO and LIFO,
Yeah.
those principles. Basically,
Well, this-
based on the inventory level you count it.
Well, why did I hesitate for a second? whenever I ask about order fulfillment for operations managers.
Why did you hesitate?
Yeah, why did I hesitate?
Deliver on time and transportation.
Okay.
For the short time.
I mean, that's the crucial part of the operations management, I guess.
It's crucial. But this goes back to that brief discussion we had yesterday about attributes and variables, measuring attributes and variables. When the customer comes in, do they want multiple things, or are they looking for just a single one, single service? And then how do they measure that? The transaction. For example, I have a Toyota pickup truck, and I took it in for an oil change, a state inspection, and a warranty repair on a leaky transmission seal. And I went in, and they gave me scheduled time and everything. And when it was done ahead of schedule, but they didn't have the right gasket for my transmission seal, which means I had to come back. So they sent me a survey, and I looked at the survey, and they basically, the way they asked the survey was, the answer they got is they completed it ahead of schedule. They said it would be done in 2 hours, and I got it back in an hour and a half. So they're an hour and a half. They actually improved delivery by an hour and a half, but they had nothing on there about they weren't able to fulfill all the requirements, so I had to make a repeat visit, which means I come back, and now they say it takes an hour to put that gasket on, and if I leave in a half an hour, now they double it and say, okay, we had 2 good transactions, we're ahead of schedule, when in essence, no, they didn't have the parts. And why am I sharing this type of information with you? Companies do this regularly, and they're fooling themselves. They're putting false information out there. They're not as good as they say they are. They're masking it. I see this done all the time. Back at the company I work for, our service parts department, we get an order of like 30 line items. 30 line items. And for a customer, they want nuts and bolts and bearings and seals and gaskets and all that. They're overhauling one of those pumps. And chances are we didn't have everything in stock. So they measured line item shipments, and we shipped 28 out of 30 on time. So they were measuring line item shipments, and at the end of the month they were reporting we're making 10,000 shipments at 90% on time, but when it came down to it, not one of our orders met the customer required date, because there was always something that was late. There was always a line item. So we had 10% of our line items ran 2 to 3 weeks late, but 10% of our line items were 100% of our orders. And they wondered why we had unhappy customers, because you can get 28 out of 30 pieces, and you can't overhaul the pump till you get 30 out of 30. So we're reporting very high levels of efficiency, and yet we have unhappy customers. Am I making a point here? Yeah. That's why you as operations managers have to understand that. You can look at these numbers and find ones that'll make you look outstanding. There's numbers in there. But really, is that truly reflecting how the company's performing? And that's what that new CEO that came in was smart enough to realize that. We ship 9,000 line items on time, but out of those 9,000 line items are on, all these orders, none of the orders are on time. Because we're not doing a good job managing the whole business is what it comes down to. We're doing a good job managing part of it. Okay, so manufacturing flow, I'm not going to say. Supplier relationship. How do you maintain relations with your suppliers? Do you have a supplier relationship policy? The old way, the old school of doing things. Back when quality and operations was purely manufacturing. And I've been there, I've done this, I've seen it happen. You build up a supply chain base, and you've got suppliers. And then things aren't going well. You're not making the sales. The market's not as strong as it was. And what's the first thing that management asks for? They tell the buyers, go back to the suppliers and tell them we have to have a 10% discount. You know, we've got to cut our prices, so they have to cut theirs. If you have a good supplier, a good relationship, what do? They'll do it to work with you, to stay with you, all right? Then what happens later on in the year when things still aren't picking up? They go back again and say, we need another 10%. Now what happens the second time?
Half of them actually drop.
Yeah, but when there's half that actually drop, what do they do on their side? They got to stay in business too. They start cutting corners, reducing quality, and start doing things to save money. And you start getting bad products, bad services. You know, the services break down. And then what would your company say? Find them, fire them, find another supplier. There's a lot of suppliers out there. And they treated suppliers like a commodity. You got everything you could out of them, squeezed them as much as you could, and then went and found another one. That worked up until the 80s and 90s. Now it takes money to develop a supplier. It takes time. You know, it's a complex world. So when you take the time to develop a good supplier, there should be some sort of a program in place, a relationship, ongoing. You want to keep them. Yeah, there's other suppliers out there, but it's going to cost money. Oh, by the way, while we're talking about suppliers, right now, major issue here in this country, corruption. That's something that gets a lot of attention. Yeah. What about in the supply chain? Is there corruption in the supply chain? It started from there? What is she?
For example, if we're going to purchase something for 100 million, the supply chain is going to cost you 190 million.
Uh-huh.
So if we can follow what is the corruption from one weakness, start from there.
Well, don't you have policies to get bids from 3 companies
Yeah, sure.
or 4 companies?
We do.
You do?
Yeah, we do. No, we have overriding policies.
Overriding policies? Okay. I want to share something with you I found when I was an auditor. I did some auditing for a while. When I left manufacturing and started teaching, I audited an approved suppliers list. They had 3 suppliers for technical services their engineering department used. 3 suppliers. I was auditing their engineering, their tech services. They subcontracted design, and they basically split their contracts among 3 of them, and they always got bids from all 3 of them before they did a project. Look at what I found in their approved supplier list. What does that look like to you? It's all the same company. They had 3 different supplier ID numbers. The engineers were telling the purchasing people to get a price, get a bid for this technical work, and make sure that they always got a bid for 3 of them. They had 3 suppliers, so they went to supplier 476, 1287, and 4582, and they kind of balanced the work for the year among those 3 companies for their development work. But look at the rest of that. It's all the same company. Is that fraud? Is that corruption? I couldn't get a straight story. I did take it, I noted that on my, that's not a violation, okay? That's not a violation.
No, that's a clear, not a violation.
Yeah.
It's an observation.
It's an observation. Yeah, when I did my ISO audit, I noted it as an observation. That might have been done accidentally. I got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think it was, but that's something they need to address because their policy says that they have to get 3 bids.
Did you get the bids? Did you see the 3 bids?
I didn't see the bids. There was nothing currently taking place. All I saw was the project that I was following through that was being manufactured, I did see the bids from the 3 companies, and one of them was the low bid. The other 2 were pretty close behind, and that's all I saw. And then whenever I said, let me see your approved supplier list, and they showed me the supplier list, because that's an ISO audit point, and then they came up with variations of the same address. I noted it as an observation for them.
Yeah.
That's all I could do.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything else. So I don't know what happened.
But that's not on you, actually, to do anything. It's back on the internal audit.
Yeah, it's back. Yeah, they're internal financial people. That's up to them to do something about that.
I mean, definitely that's a fraud case because the address is the same,
Yeah,
irrespective of the name of the vendor.
yeah. So I give them the benefit of the doubt, but I just told them my observation was that I noted this, and I explained it very professionally, very objectively, and they should probably look at their supplier manual more closely, their supplier list more closely. See if anything else like that was taking place. You ever come across anything like that? Have your auditors ever noticed anything like that? Nope.
That's why a lot of people are Ritz Carlton right now because of this.
A lot of people are what?
Ritz Carlton.
Ritz-Carlton.
We have Metro. We have Metro. All the suppliers came from one of the people in Ritz.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting. I was supposed to do quality training next month for another company here in Riyadh. And I talked to my contact yesterday, and he says, it's been delayed again. He said, our CEO has been gone for about a month. We don't know if he's out of the country or at the Ritz-Carlton. He said, I'll have to get back to you. He said, we want to do it, but we've got to wait till we find out what's going on here. We haven't seen or heard from him in a month. Okay, so we're still in supply-related processes here. Customer relationship management. Again, managing your customer base. Tailoring, treating your customers right, making customers feel valued. Can be simple or complex. What do you think the most important thing is when you say treat your customers right?
With respect.
Respect and consistency. Consistency, yeah. So I keep saying over and over, customers don't like to be surprised. I'm looking, what happened to my projector here?
Just scale.
Nope. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, treat customers right, make them feel valued. And it said can be simple or complex. I always suggest keep it simple as possible. Remember, your customer relationship management generally is people. And like we did with that rolled throughput yield, keep it as simple a process as possible. Sometimes just, you saw K&N management. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Hi, how you doing? What can I do for you? Guarantee every guest is delighted because of me. Nothing more than that. Customer service, the R's, 7 R's. Right product, right quantity, right condition, right place, right time, right customer, right cost. Designing your customer service to suit your customers' needs. I had another great experience in this almost 3 years ago when I first started coming over here to the Middle East. My first event, I was living in Los Angeles. And I was flying from Los Angeles to Dubai, from Dubai to Accra, Ghana, from Accra, Ghana to Riyadh, then Riyadh back to Los Angeles, 3 weeks. First trip, it's a very complex one. And I've got my favorite domestic U.S. airline. They fly internationally. They're a member of a World Alliance. And I'm on the phone with an agent. And I have a premier status with them, so I'm talking, the executive status group. Obviously, this woman had never traveled, never made international travel arrangements. And then we're talking, and I hadn't done really any travel either, so I wasn't much help. And then she says, write this number down. So I wrote it down. I said, that sounds like a record locator number. And she said, it is. I said, well, we don't have a record to locate. And then she said, well, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with any customer at any one time. My time's almost up. I have to hang up. Whenever you call back, give them this number and they'll pick up where we left off. Goodbye. How's that for customer service? You can't spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with any customer. Who makes these kind of rules?
Unfortunately, those still apply in a lot of service companies now.
But they don't understand. Okay, so
I don't know what's why.
Yeah, in five. Well,
there's a reason behind it, but they actually try, and that's on the impact. It has actually an impact on the service delivery.
yes,
The agent won't be able to deliver the message right to the customer.
won't be able
And
to.
he would actually just finish up whatever actually the call is for, just for the sake of not exceeding the time limit.
Yeah. Now here's the impact on the company. I got frustrated and I went to one of those, I think with Travelocity or whatever, and I booked there. It ended up being almost, it was almost $4,000 US for that ticket, for coach. It ended up being more because I upgraded. But because she was limited to 5 minutes, that cost them a $4,000 airline ticket. In 5 minutes, she can book all those U.S. tickets, where they're less than $1,000 to fly domestically in the U.S. But you go international travel, so evidently they're not interested in, those high-end tickets. They just want the everyday, local ones. I don't know. Being a quality person or an operations person, I have problems with this, and it frustrates me.
I think some chapters they are focusing, or they are aimed to reduce the amount time that will be spent on this call. So they set the metrics for that, say 2 minutes, 5 minutes, but they don't work on the process. They just set the number,
Yeah.
and the employee will have to stick with it.
I know they set a process like it's a production line, like it's a machine that's running, producing airline tickets, or and they use those standards. It's a people process. People working with people. They have to have more flexibility. There should be other sets of criteria that they use.
And maybe digging deep to adjust your system, your processes, just to reduce the time
Yeah.
you need in order to serve the customer.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I would have done, again, I'm not running a company, but obviously this lady didn't know anything about international travel. I would have had an international travel department that she would have transferred me to.
Yeah.
Somebody that knows about international travel, because obviously the questions I was asking she couldn't answer. Instead, she cut me off. Have experts, a couple of them, that'll handle these types of transactions. You don't want to lose these customers. That's big money. There's more money there than there is domestically.
Actually, I think now, previously in Amazon, when you wanted help or anything, you just wait in line and get a customer service guy and you just chat with him.
Uh-huh.
Today it's very hard to get to that point. They changed it so that there's like a manual. You just pick and find questions
Yeah.
and answer, frequently asked questions. But it's it's very frustrating for me, for example, to go, I need to chat with someone, but it's all systematic.
I know, I've encountered that too. You know what I do? I hang up. I don't need it that bad. I'll find it somewhere. I'll get creative and innovative. I'll find an alternate project or product, whatever. Demand management, balance customer demand with capacity, planning, forecasting, replenishment, contingency. Okay, this is where I did some discussion on this already. You don't want to lose business, but again, what can you staff for? How much can you handle? You don't want to turn business away. You know, in my life, I've encountered so many of these issues. It's just amazing. I told you I moved to North Carolina a couple years ago. My wife went in ahead of me to start making arrangements because she has more patience and time to check out the area, and she found a good bank. She opened a personal checking account, banking account there. And I'm traveling. I'm doing a lot of travel. So I came to the point where I wanted to close my California bank and go to the one in North Carolina. And we walked into where she said these people were good, they're friendly. And I walked into the office where the new accounts, and I'm walking in, and the guy says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to leave. I have a mandatory management on customer satisfaction. I have to attend this meeting. It's mandatory. Come back tomorrow and I'll take care of you." Mandatory meeting on customer satisfaction. Evidently, he wasn't learning anything. So about a week later, the bank manager called my wife, because she'd been banking there for about 30 days, says, "How's it going? How's your service?" And she said, "My service is good, but let me tell you." She said, "My husband came in and he was going to open his business account, which is carrying more than 10 times the volume of money and transactions and business that he was going to bring in that bank. And your agent said he had to leave for a mandatory customer service meeting. He couldn't open a new account for him. So my husband took his account somewhere else, and I'm thinking about it too." That's the last we heard from him. They never called again to see how we were satisfied. She's still there, but I took my account somewhere else. I can't take care of a customer because I got to go to learn how to take care of a customer. I hope those of you in the service industry, your frontline people don't act that way, do they? When you have a customer come in, they're first. They're first. They supersede everything else. There should be no mandatory meetings that supersede customer transaction.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How was it back in California?
California, they're business oriented.
Compared to North Carolina?
Yeah, compared to North. No, you walked in and I said, I did when I opened my business account. The manager that opened the business account was out to lunch. She said, "Oh, he's out to lunch." And then the teller said, "Wait a minute." Went and got the bank manager out of his office and come over and started. He said, "I'll pick it up until he gets back, so you don't have to wait." Now, California is very business oriented. The bank manager came out from behind his desk to start opening my account because they don't want to let you slip away.
Well, I don't know, but for us actually, we think that I personally, and that's my personal opinion, it's a cultural aspect. Whatever you face in the States, we have the same here.
Same here?
Yeah, most of our call center agents, let's say, they're either on the west or east coast because actually they're more into services than actually the central or south or north people. And this I noticed, by the way, between the east coast and the west coast, the difference is in between customer service.
Okay.
In west coast, especially California, they're more into customer service and welcome clients rather than the east coast.
There's more competition out there, much more.
But again, it's a cultural aspect actually of the people.
Yeah.
We have the same here, by the way.
Okay. So can you overcome it and offer consistent service to your customers? Or do your customers accept the different cultures?
We're actually, let me be sarcastic here, where you have tough customer service agents, you have tough clients as well.
Okay.
So it goes both ways.
Both ways?
Yeah, it goes both ways.
All right. All right, what does that mean?
Being in the service industry for 20 years, it does actually.
I was going to say, what does that mean to you as operations manager?
Tough, difficult.
Difficult.
Yeah, has to differentiate the level of treatment I have to deal actually with the agents and the regions.
Yeah, yeah, it makes it more, that's the point I was making. It makes it more challenging for you as an operations manager.
Complicated.
It is,
You have to cope with the different mentalities
that's
and people.
one of the themes I've been discussing since Sunday, right? Operations management's more complex now than it's ever been to be successful. You got to have a lot of flexibility, a lot of situational management skills. Manage the situation. Purchasing and logistics. Purchasing is the process of buying. Requires marketing, engineering, manufacturing, planning, and control. There's a lot of input. In organizations, the general rule is, and I think this is universal around the world, anyone in the company can write a purchase requisition. Only the buyer can make it a purchase order. Only the buyer is authorized to commit company funds for payment to an outside source. So anybody can initiate a requisition and send it to purchasing. The purchasing agent, buyer, whatever the position is the one that has intense training, policies, procedures, knows legal, the approval process, can look at terms and conditions, commercial issues, to commit your company's funds to pay someone else for services. And so it gets pretty involved. But, you know, the purchase orders, the materials you buy, some of those are pretty complex. Logistics, the delivery methods, you can't rely on purchasing to have all those skills. That's why they need the input from these other areas: marketing, engineering, manufacturing, service departments, whatever. Anybody can provide them with what they need to make a decision, but they are the only ones that can make the final decision. So that's a point that you have to let suppliers know too, whenever you're getting a new supplier, letting them know an organizational chart. You'll be contacted by engineering, you'll be contacted by marketing people, you'll be contacted by buildings and grounds people for information, but you do not, if I place an order for 50 and building and grounds says, no, that's a mistake, we need 100, you do not arbitrarily up that to 100 unless you have a revision with my signature on it, coming from my department. I'm the only one that can make commercial decisions. Because we've had, there's a lot of, like that supplier example I showed you back here. Okay.
Applicable with the size order of products we purchase for the patients.
Uh-huh.
This is because there's no documentation and
Hey, whoa, I'm sorry. Hey, can you keep? Okay, a little, I'm sorry, okay. Go ahead.
so that's cost us a lot.
Yeah,
So we contact the company to choose other size of beds. So this is an example for everyone.
okay. All right, good example too. I mean, this happens every day, thank you. So I think everybody's been there, seen that, and done that. So you know how important it is, and purchasing is generally, as I said, a lot of companies, they put it under the finance function. If it's, I'm kind of biased, I think it should be under operations to avoid making those kind of mistakes. Finance strictly looks at financial considerations.
Isn't purchasing under procurement now?
What's that?
Purchasing, the process of buying, isn't it under procurement now?
Well, it depends on the company. What is procurement under? Is they have their own departments?
Shared services. Shared services?
Shared services?
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned earlier that purchasing in a lot of organizations falls under the finance department. But as I was just saying here, my personal bias is purchasing should be in operations because there's more to it than just looking at the numbers. That's what I feel too, but a lot of companies have purchasing as a finance function. They're looking for bottom line numbers and financial management. And I have had issues with that. But you know, I'm not going to argue with your organization. They've structured it. You said shared services, finance, whatever works for them, as long as they're able to understand they're buying value, not just a product or service. Put it in that perspective, the overall value the supplier can bring you. Channels of distribution, types of markets, geographic, number of customers, characteristic of the product, type of transportation, and you know these things they vary all over. I'm sure all over the country here. Some places here it's probably, I know it's quicker to probably with air freight than it is with the truck, and it might even be less expensive. Yeah, and you have to investigate these things. Back the company I left, our factory was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We had our office in Chicago, halfway across the U.S. Our corporate office negotiated, we did a lot of, as I said, 24/7 service work, and we had to make shipments overnight. Needed the parts the next day. So they negotiated special rates with this one air freight company. That's the only one we're allowed to use. Well, where we were in Chicago, the next day delivery, we were at the end of the line. Yeah, the next day for us, it would come in at 4:30 in the afternoon. That's still the next day. We were so far from their distribution center for this company. And just down the street from us was a trucking company, Normal Trucking. And they had distribution centers all across the U.S. One in Chicago, one in Pittsburgh, you know, in the major cities. And we would tell them that we wanted it shipped by that, you know, it would come in as an emergency order, flagged as emergency. They would put it on that air freight shipment, and we wouldn't get it till 4 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. Where if we went through and we put it on regular shipments, we had it at 8 o'clock the next morning. And we tried to tell the factory we wanted to change the structure, and they would not listen to us. That doesn't make sense. You know, they were so, at their factory, at their location, they just couldn't believe that we could make regular shipments at a fraction of the price, 8 hours less than emergency handling and air freight. The reason I'm sharing this with you, there's a lot of options, and I know here you've got a big country. You've got, 4 or 5 major business centers and a lot of open space in between. How do you get products from one place to the next? The best way, most effective, most efficient. And it probably changes based on products, product sizes, types of products. Some customers or some companies rent space on airplanes. They're guaranteed so much space on every flight. And they got to fill it because they're paying for it one way or the other. If it's coming late in the day and then they know there's a cargo plane going out tonight and there's hardly anything on it, you might get some really good rates for an overnight shipment just because they want to put something on there because they're already paying for the space. Same thing, that flight might be already booked up for today and tomorrow. And you're paying a premium price, but you're still not going to get it there because they've got to take an alternate route, put it on a truck, you know, that's quicker. You've got to ask these questions because things change. It's not static. Green logistics, a lot of attention here. Return and disposal of packaging materials. Return and disposal of environmentals, heavy metals, solvents. Use of recyclable, returnable packaging. I don't know, probably none of you have been involved with some of the things that I saw over the years that led to this. We used to get a box in. Now, whenever inside, they're shipping you something in a box that's fragile. And what do they pack it in? They've got that bubble wrap, okay? That's one of the greatest inventions ever. Do you know what they used to do before bubble wrap? Well, yeah, but that didn't work as well as something else. What? No, I think they're just about all but gone now. We used to call them the styrofoam peanuts. Little pieces of styrofoam, they look like a peanut. And they would pour the styrofoam in there to set the fragile item in, put more in, compress it down, seal the box up. Well, those styrofoam peanuts, as we call them, when you opened the box and you took the piece out, what happened to those little pieces? They stuck, or they went onto the floor. And if you open a door, they're blowing all over the place through the warehouse or your home. Even if you got a shipment at home and you open a door and the wind blows through, they're blowing all over the place. If they get in your yard, they don't degrade. They're there forever. That was a big shipping item here up until about, 10 or 15 years ago when they started to replace it with these bubble wrap, which are right now much more environmentally friendly, saves the environment, and the same purpose. I think the bubble wrap's probably going to be replaced with something else in the near future. I don't know what, probably something else. Objectives of purchasing. Obtain goods and services, required quality and quantity, the best possible cost. Notice it's not price, it's cost. Why do we say cost and not price?
Can I add margin or not? Can I say it?
Margin's one thing. There's more to it than that, though. That's only part of it. Uh-huh.
Maybe the freight charge will be higher, or the insurance will be higher.
Okay.
For the product itself.
That-
Sometimes you will buy something cheap, and the freight or airfare or seat it's a little bit costly. So you can buy it from another alternative or local, even a little bit higher, but it will be less cost.
Okay. That's a good part of it, too. Yeah, I was looking for the overall value. Not just the cost, but the value it brings to you. How satisfied you are with it, how happy it makes you, whether they have a full warranty, full replacement part.
The product that you buy, it's matching your requirements.
Matching your requirements. So that's why not the lowest possible cost, value. Best possible service and delivery, and maintaining and developing suppliers. Suppliers you can rely on. Functions of purchasing, the right quality, the right quantity, the right time, the right place, right delivery, selecting the supplier, the right source. It's finding that supplier that'll satisfy and suit your needs, that you can rely on them. They're an extension of your company. Operations, you can't live without a good supply chain because you can't do it on your own. You're going to need help from the outside. Your company cannot be self-sustained. Just too complex. You've got to know what kind of sources you need, what kind of services, what kind of products, and make sure that your purchasing function has them ready and available for you. Ready when you need them. Negotiating terms and conditions. We didn't actually say that, but we've discussed it. Terms and conditions are flexible. This is where you can add a lot of value to your company. A lot of value. I'll give you a good example of this. The company I work for, again, they thought they were making money, extra money. They covered shipping. We made these huge pumps, that fit on the back of a tractor trailer. And we sold a lot of them to Aramco. And what we did is we guaranteed shipments to when they were unloaded here at Aramco, Dammam. It belonged to our company until it was taken off the ship and put on Aramco's truck. Title was transferred. And that way we paid for shipping and we marked it up and we were happy we were making more money. Okay, because we added shipping to the cost. Kind of inflated our sales numbers. Until they were unloading one of these off the ship here, Dammam, and as they lifted it up, the chain slipped and dropped the pump down in the Gulf. It's at the bottom of the harbor. Now, whose responsibility is that to get that back up and get it inspected and get it repaired and serviced?
The contract, it's you guys. It's DTD or the EU, it's different. It depends on the terms and condition of.
Well, that's what I just told you what the terms and conditions were.
What the terms and conditions?
Yeah, the freight alongside.
Right alongside.
Yeah, so we owned that pump until it was put on the truck to go to the refinery. So while it was being offloaded on the ship, it was not on the truck yet, so who owned it?
You?
We did. So we were responsible for sending a crew over here to get a crane, to lift it up and get underwater scuba divers to go down and hook it up, bring it up, find a local machine shop over here where we could truck it into, take it all apart, inspect it, and make sure everything was okay before it ended up, before it went to the customer. Now, had the other terms been different, where it was, FOB, as soon as we put it on a truck, Aramco took title to it. Now, when they lifted that up off the truck and dropped it in the ocean, who's responsible? Aramco. Yeah, now they got to make the arrangements. So after that occurred, our company changed its philosophy. We didn't cover any shipping anymore. As soon as we put it on the truck, here's your title, it's yours.
You lose some customers. You will lose a lot of customers.
Well, we didn't.
A lot of customers.
No, we didn't. The customers were smarter than we were.
Yeah, because they
How?
cut the costs. Yes.
How?
How? They subcontracted with insurance to carriers. Even though they had responsibility, they subcontracted and insured, which we weren't doing.
You can do it as a supplier.
Yeah, well, we could have, but, we didn't have the smartest management in the world. Let's put it that way. We didn't have the smartest group. They looked at bottom line numbers and costs and like, wow, we can say it costs $50,000 to ship this. We're selling a compressor for $500,000. Now we're selling it for $550,000, and we're not doing anything. All we're doing is putting it on a ship and sends. That's an extra $50,000 on our bottom line that we can show, sales for the company. And they never looked at these kind of things until that happened, until it's too late. Now it cost us all that money. So that's when, we said, no, we will not. Our company said, no, we will not. You've got it as soon as we unload it on a truck. But our customers, Aramco, more sophisticated. They were covered. And I think they used better companies because I don't think it ever happened again. Purchasing cycle, okay. Do you all know the purchasing cycle? As operations people, you should. Requisitions are prepared. Can be by anybody, all right? Your company can have policies as to who can write them or whatever, but legally anybody can. Then it gets to the purchasing department. They review it. If it's a valid request under company policies, they will then select suppliers that are capable of providing these products off the approved supplier list and get quotations. Quotations determine the current price. Current price is then added to the purchase order, any additional terms and conditions. It's signed by the buyer, approved, issued to the supplier, and now they're bound, legally bound, to provide the products. They provide the products and the paperwork. Receiving department assures a correct delivery, receives and accepts the goods. Somebody internally said, yes, they did what they were supposed to. We got the materials. We approve it. And then they send that receipt to accounting. and when that receipt gets to accounting, it's authorized to make payment. You all knew that, right? That's a very simplified process.
Starts with the receiving the requirements, is it? Starts from user requirement?
Yeah, the user requirements. Somebody wants something.
Yeah, it's written in the book clarification of specifications.
That's a little more, that's when they analyze the purchase requisitions. That's where the specifications and quantities and sizes and that are all determined. Okay, I'm not going to go into that level of depth and detail here. How do you measure performance? We talked about this a little bit the other day. Delivery, quality, flexibility, time, costs, added value, what kind of service they provide you. I used that example from that aerospace company that I was helping out. You know, 95% you're a gold supplier, 90% you're silver, 85% you're bronze. Less than that, you're in the red and being fired. It was just strictly by numbers and orders. It's more to it than that. That's delivery, but quality, flexibility, customization, service. There's a lot of other factors that can be worked into that. Value added. Well, when you get a good supply chain, more effective product specifications. You can get high volume discounts, supplier consolidation. Instead of a partial truckload, a whole truckload. You know, it saves costs. Lower costs through long-term contracts, good communications, lower payment costs. Credit card, electronic commerce. Do you know what a blanket order is? What's a blanket order?
When you have fixed specification and rate on fixed rate but without quantity.
Okay.
It's called frame contract, sort of frame contract.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Rate card for things that I will not commit anything, just this is the rate card, and they'll have the blanket agreement.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay. Yeah, those are all good explanations. Yeah, a blanket agreement, basically you've got a set rate. You're going to purchase a given quantity over the year. Usually it's a 1-year contract. Blanket's good for a year. And you just send them releases. You say, we'll do 50,000 reals a year with you buying these components. And we'll just keep sending you requests when we need them. You don't need a whole purchase order or requisition or anything. We'll just send you a request, and you're authorized to send them to us until we spend 50,000 reals. If we don't spend it, okay, fine. If we spend more, you need to let us know, because we will not pay more than 50. And it's with good suppliers. It saves a lot of time, a lot of money. And if you're making repeat purchases over and over again, it's very quick. Hospitals, you probably have blanket agreements with a lot of your suppliers. Linens, consumables, the gloves, you know, towels and those types of things, because you're doing the same purchase over and over at high volume for a year, and it wouldn't be cost effective to have to go through this whole purchasing process every time. So you negotiate at the beginning of the year, set it up, and then it just self-manages for the year. Completely acceptable by legal and by quality standards and regulatory requirements. You're not violating any of those requirements here. Have you heard the term bullwhip? Fluctuations in orders. Do you know what a bullwhip is? The bullwhip effect, the little changes we make here at the company, this is our entire supply chain. We make a little change here. What happens all the way out here at our sources? Major changes. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're really making major revisions to your supply chain, to products, customer requirements. You can have a major effect on those small companies on the outskirts of the end of the bullwhip to you there. A little change for you might be a big one for them. Major change.
You consider them in the value chain.
Yeah. Be prepared. Be prepared when you're making changes. Supply chain performance, coordination, communication, effective metrics, mutual business objectives. I hope I made the point earlier for you as operations managers. It's important for you to determine which are the best metrics for you to know how well your supply chain's performing and have a good line of communication so they're aware of it. And if you can do that, you'll be successful. Your job as ops managers will be much easier. Good suppliers, good communication, and a good form of performance measures. Don't cheat yourselves. I mean, you know, it only makes your job tougher. That example I gave you with measuring line items as opposed to entire purchase orders. We ship 90% on time, all these items. Well, why are our customers upset? Because they only look at the overall order when it's closed. Let's all get on the same page here. Structural improvements, forward and backward integration. Do you know what that means? Forward and backward? What's that?
Like the distribution and the supply from you in order to produce this before you distribute it to the...
Okay. Yeah, remember the SIPOC model? I had the SIPOC up here the other day, 2 days ago, and you forgot about it already? Suppliers, input, processes, output. If you're here and you're looking back this way, that's backward integration. If you're here looking out to your customers, forward integration. That's taking them into consideration in your decisions. That's what they mean by backward and forward integration, is you're here in the center. You're the process. Simplification, physical configuration, major redesign, working with third-party logistics providers. You've got a lot of options. Which one do you choose? How can you, as being an ops manager, and you know you have to make improvements, how would you go about determining whether you should simplify the process, change configuration, redesign the process? Where do you get some facts from to make those decisions?
Quality, cost, and time. If I can improve quality, cost, and time, I would do it.
All right. That's general. Might get lucky. That's going in the right direction, though. But what helps you to support whether you have which one of these decisions you have to make? Your KPIs. Your KPIs in direct relation and how they support these different issues here. That's not a topic for this class, but you know we did talk about control charts, key performance indicators. But by monitoring them, evaluating them on a regular basis, that'll help you to determine which of these to pursue. Then you'll guarantee those comments you made, what do you say, quality, performance, and cost. Once you know that you've made an informed decision here, instead of getting lucky, you'll guarantee you'll be on track. You'll know that you hit the right one. So just removing some of the doubts. Supply chain infrastructure improvements, cross-functional teams, partnerships, setup system, cross-docking, themes we've been talking about all the way through. Technology, do you know what B2B is? Business to business. B2C, business to customer. How about MRP and ERP? That's enterprise resource planning. MRP? Materials resource planning. Materials came first. We're going to talk a little bit about this tomorrow, not much. But yeah, ERP's become so big now that MRP's forgotten. MRP was a major breakthrough. Computerized control of your inventory, your bills of material, and buying the right materials at the right time. That was MRP. But technology and actually the cost of storage in computers is really what allowed it to advance to ERP. Supply chain resilience, ability to respond to unexpected disruptions or demand that are either natural or man-made, to change as the market changes, be able to handle the changes. And that concludes Chapter 10.